Thank you. Deputy Catherine Connolly.
I listened to the Taoiseach this morning tell us that the local authorities hadn't measured up. Then he repeated it in a different phraseology. And let me say, the City Council in Galway measured up. And every quarter of every year they produced a housing report and they set out their strategy and the land that they had zoned residential. And then the note that went with that, construction suspended, no funding. That was the position in Galway. I'm there since 1999 and I left earlier this year, and we didn't construct one single social house since 2009. And we have a housing crisis in Galway because we simply did not use public land with public funds to provide homes. And I'm sickened to the core when I hear members of the Labour Party justify that by saying the economy couldn't afford homes. There's something seriously wrong with our definition of an economy if we can't afford to give homes. And there's something definitely wrong with an economic strategy that doesn't cater for people to have security and with all the positive benefits that that brings. And let me welcome some of the things in the report, Minister, in terms of the strategy for urban and village renewal. I welcome that. And there are a number of other matters, things that I recommend. There are 84 recommendations. But what's important here, and I fully agree with Deputy Richard Boyd-Barrett and Ruth Coppinger in relation to this, there is an utter and complete failure to address the fact that a state must provide homes on public lands. And what's happening here, and the facts have been outlined on page 45, that you intend to build up to a figure of 5,000 houses by 2021. You cannot possibly provide homes for our people at the rate that the waiting lists are increasing with this strategy. And worse than that, you are going back to rely on the market forces, the very market forces with repeated government policy that caused the crisis in the first place. And we have a national emergency. And I hope, Minister, that you conclude tonight by acknowledging that we have a national emergency, not because the economy failed, but we failed to use the economy to provide homes for our people. And each person or each TD stands up here and has an anecdote. And let me give one very simple fact. As I stand here tonight, I made representations today for a family who are on the list in Galway since 2002. They're number one on that list. That's 14 years ago. And the City Council in Galway have given a response that they are not in a position to tell that family when they will have a house. And furthermore, sticking with Galway, but making a general point, Dr. McKenna in Galway has concluded a European piece of research that went on over 2 years. And while I hear TDs here asking for a moratorium in relation to house repossessions, which I agree with, he points out the significant finding from the report that evictions, Minister, arise from increased rents, and those evictions are greater than evictions arising from failure to pay a mortgage. And so we have a document here that utterly fails to give security in the rental sector, while the whole thing of this is to rely on rent and the rental sector. And actually, I'm appalled that you would think of giving over public land bought at the highest prices to private companies to build land and get back a little bit of social housing rather than the other way around. If we learn anything, let's learn. The Kenny report has been quoted by the Deputy in the Labour Party. The Kenny report repeated governments have refused to act upon. And we've refused to recognise that the long-term gain of providing homes for our people actually will spur the economy and will lead to a much healthier and wealthier country. And now we're going to give more money to the approved housing bodies, and they're unregulated. In the last number of weeks, we've come into this chamber and talked about the unregulated charity sector. And we have approved housing bodies that are in a market that's absolutely unregulated. And I have it noted here, and I'm about to thank you for that you've recognised that gap and that you're now going to have a regulator. I hope the regulator is put in place with resources on a much speedier basis than in relation to the charity sector. I'll stop at this point for my colleague. Thank you.